I recently sat down with English literature professor Dr. Jennifer Smith, who teaches at Concordia University, Chicago. I asked her how she would characterize a tragic hero and also what she believes makes up a tragic hero. She also shared with me some familiar characters that she believes to be tragic heroes.
Tragic heroes, I think, could be defined in two ways. One, a hero who has a moral code that he lives by lives by so strongly that they have to sacrifice other parts of their lives to maintain it. Or two, a hero who has kind of conflicting desires or wishes, and then he has to decide between those two worlds or two sets of values, and that usually involves sacrifice. So the one thing you see throughout tragic heroes is this idea of sacrifice to some kind of sense of self, morality, or purpose. I think maybe a classic example of a tragic hero in film is Michael Corleone from The Godfather, right? And he's an example of a character who has conflicting poles. He is very adamant that he won't get involved with the family business. He's a war veteran, he's in love, he wants to start this kind of mainstream normal life, and yet the pull of family kind of pulls in. So he's got conflicting desires between his desire to be his own individual and family loyalty, and that's kind of a central conflict. So you see tragic figures often in mafia films, even like The Sopranos. I mean, Tony Soprano's a tragic figure because he is bound up in this world, but also deeply troubled by it. And you see that especially in his relationships with death. So the death of other humans doesn't bother him. He's kind of sociopathic in that way, but the death of animals really does, so it kind of humanizes him in that way. A lot of times the tragic hero dramatizes that that's the human condition. We all have choices, and our choices matter, but we don't all have the same choices. And that we have these, often these sets of circumstances that limit the kinds of choices we might make. Sometimes it seems very inevitable, especially in literature, often Shakespeare's characters are figured as tragic heroes because it seems like they're so inevitably led to that, but actually the plays show that it's a combination of choice and circumstance, but not everybody's choices are the same. Not only are these figures tragic, but the tragic figure exposes how the world around them is so deeply upset and unstable. And I think that's what makes a tragic figure really compelling, when it goes beyond just the individual and seeps into their whole world. There's something serial about the superhero genre. So especially the recent superhero movies tend to make their main figures these kind of tragic heroes, right? Especially, the Batman series. I think that one does it the best, especially in the first film. Pitting his sense of justice and right versus kind of doing anything at all costs, and it does cost the people in his life quite a bit. But in the form of the superhero movie, the idea is that even if there's a happy ending at the end of one movie, it's going to go on, and he'll face new struggles, and the old kind of personality conflicts are there. So it's kind of interesting to think about this new genre and what happens to it when they're definitely done. But I always love too in those stories when it's not just about the ending, but some early moment in a character's past that shaped who they became.